Hello, my name's John Kidman. I'm from Penola, southeast of South Australia. I'm a sheep and cattle producer at 13 kilometres from Penola on the Millicent Road. Rackham's is 1,150 hectares. We're running both sheep and cattle. We're running about 5,000 sheep now. We used to be basically sheep, but we're transitioning into cattle for personal reasons. We're running 330 odd breeders, and we do a little bit of cropping and have some blue gums as well. I'm a Hereford breeder, which is fairly rare in our area, and I carry everything through to about 16 months. We target a fat market of steers of 500 kilos, but if they don't meet that, they go feeders, which we've done this previous year. I've been a merino breeder all my life, and for the last 15 years I've also breeding first cross lambs, feeding the ewe hogget market. Where we're standing at the moment, we're on sand over clay or typical red gum country, and as we move to where we're going to do some feeding, we move into heavier country which is more neutral pH and well blacker in texture. Our average rainfall is around about 26 inches, and it really hasn't altered, not in my lifetime anyhow, to any great degree. But between July 23 and July 24, those 12 months, we only had 10 inches of rain, and that's what set us up for that being last year being a bad year, but we've had them before. Behind me at the moment is a circle of lucerne. It's divided into 5 paddocks, and we're running 1,000 wether lambs on that, and they get rotated through those 5 paddocks until they're finished. And then we generally get to the end of April on that pivot, rotating, and then we move into a cattle rotation for the winter. In a year like last year, the pivot's very important. It's a very important part of what we're doing here, even though it's only a small area, but it allows you to escape the seasons. The weather's not in your control, you're in control of it. Come on, girls. We better shut up, girls. I've been here for 55 years, and in that time I've experienced 4 years similar to last year. Well, it didn't rain until middle of July, but the whole scenario started really in that financial year leading up to that. We only had 10 inches of rain from July 23 to July 24. In the middle of that, we were set up for a difficult year if we had a failed autumn, which we did. We've always been feeders on our sheep because we're spring lambing and spring calving, so we tend to have that issue in the autumn with young stock. So sheep, it was just a matter of really sourcing more grain. We like to think we hold enough hay for the cattle for 2 seasons, but that scenario didn't come to fruition last year because we had to purchase some hay as well and purchase grain, which we normally do. My grazing strategy leading into autumn didn't change a lot. We had a lot less dry matter, but the stock fared well. But then as we grew into the season and we knew that we were going to have a tough winter because it hadn't rained, of course, we upped our feeding, sheep and cattle, to keep our stock, we thought, in good condition so our production didn't falter. Originally I used grazing charts, so I found them, and I think people still would find them a very good predictor of what's coming forward. And I've done a lot of nutritional training, and it comes back to knowing what a DSE requires for maintenance, and if an animal's pregnant or an animal's lactating, you've got to adjust accordingly. The data from the grazing charts is actual factual evidence you put in there, collected every month. And the graph will give you an indication which way you're heading as far as feed availabilities. On top of that, you can throw scenarios in yourself and just say, well, if this happens or that happens, this is what we're going to end up in the next couple of months. And it just gives you a bit of a better outlook, perhaps, on what the season's doing. And that would have, if I was doing, seriously, if I was doing grazing charts, I would have seen, well, I would have probably become more aware earlier to make a decision last year, because this would have been saying back in April last year, it would have been saying, hey look, this is what's going to happen because you're not going to have any food supply because this is when it started. And that's how accurate they are, because it's facts you're putting in there, you're not just budgeting on what you think might happen. If we continue to have a season like last year, at the moment we've got a lot more dry matter, and I'm already supplementing some sheep with lupins because of their high protein content. I think you get a lot more benefit from the dry feed. And then we're also feeding lambs through that we normally do anyhow, and they're on loosened silage and maize because of its low protein, so we don't overload the animal on protein. At this stage, we're not up to feeding cattle. I've got plenty of condition. When this autumn comes, which is only around the corner, at the moment, I'll be feeding as a normal season, and then I'll assess it when the season breaks. And if the break is later, then I have to be in a position to maintain the stock, which means I'll be feeding more. I've found it very important over a long period of time to be involved in group training. And along with the guy that works with me, we do it together, and we're in a limestone coast beef group now. We've done ewe management, weaner management. Going back, I did the first ones like the Triple P, the Pro Grays. And I think you learn just as much from being involved in those groups from the people that are involved as you do from the process. There's a lot of knowledge out there that's sitting there waiting to be tapped. We're going to have more of these seasons. History says it, that's all. But groups do get together when we come into the trouble seasons and share their experience, their knowledge and the availability. And the things that can scare some people is think, where are we going to get it? But everything's available and resources are available and the information is available. You just have to get out there.
Hi, I'm Nick Clark. I'm a multi-generational prime lamb and beef producer from Furner, South Australia. This is a family-run business. It's made up of me and my family and then my parents. We run about 1,200 hectares here, made up of about 5,000 breeder ewes and 100 head of breeder cattle. We do a little bit of small broadacre cropping. Our main pasture type are perennial phalaris clovers, and soils are black heavy clay soils. I use a Merino White Suffolk cross, and they are put over a multi-meat ram. They're self-replacing, and then the self-replacement ewe will go over a Dorset ram. And we produce our lamb to go to mainly domestic slaughter markets, and we sort of aim to get that 25 kilo carcass weight. In the last couple of years we have gone more towards that domestic. We used to do a bit more export with the heavier lambs, but with the tougher seasons we've tried to move the lambs on a little bit quicker and just go a bit lighter. We aim to get our lambs to 25 kilos dress weight. We can finish a fair few on our pastures that we have. We have some finishing pastures we have sown, and then we have a feedlot set up to help finish the tail end. Our cattle are made up of an Angus cross enterprise. We have about 100 head of cattle, and we are a spring calving, and we mainly sell them to a feedlot, sort of around 450 to 500 kilos. 2024 season was a pretty tough one here. There wasn't a lot of rain until winter, and there's a lot of autumn feeding happening. Bit of a learning curve for everyone in the district. Typical rainfall is around the 700 mil of rain, where 2024 we only got 580, so we're a little bit short, which made it a bit of a tougher season for us. Bit of a learning curve. We did a fair bit of feed budgeting. We scanned our ewes, which we normally do anyway, but just feeding up to their requirements and keeping the ewes in healthy condition scores up for lambing. For our feed budgeting, we use a local nutritionist in the area, and with their help and guidance and what available fodder we have on stock, we sort of made a bit of a budget and plan on what we're going to feed and how often to feed, and went from there. We buy in grain supplement, but we produce our own hay and silage to feed. On an average year, I'd say we'd feed for maybe 5 weeks, but last year was closer to a couple of months, yeah. To help us in the autumn time, we like to have feed on hand early, condition score the ewes and have them out of lambing paddocks to keep that so the germination can grow. Rams go out, Christmas time, and they've just come out Australia Day. We come into shearing in end of February and we'll condition score the ewes and see how they're all looking, and then into a scanning in March, and they'll be split into dries, singles and multiples. So the dries will be sold off, and then from there that's where we start implementing our feed budget and start planning on whether the ewes need to be brought up to condition or whether they are fine just to keep on where they are. So our feeding ration last year was an 80-20 mix of barley and lupins, and we also added in some extra lime into the barley ration just to help the ewes get more strength. We also have loose licks in the paddocks to help the ewes at lambing pat times. And we just have a Bromar feed cart. Our grazing strategy is smart grazing. It's like a rotational grazing. We just move the stock to manage the pasture on hand and to help with our worm counts and other issues. Through last year and most years we try and spell a lot of lambing paddocks as much as we can. We have the ewes run in big mobs and feed them there for as long as we can before we split them off into lambing paddocks. We have a feedlot set up at the moment. We're feeding lambs, which works very well. The feedlot has got a fair bit of use in the past 12 months compared to other years. Normally it's run at least double capacity than it does in a regular year. Since 2024, a bit of a plan we have going forward is to try keep out of lambing paddocks for as long as possible. Let that little bit of germination come, let the feed get up before you put sheep in to eat it off. If that involves keeping the sheep in large mobs and out of lambing paddocks, feeding them there. Through 2024 we fed right throughout lambing, and it only brought our lambing percentage back by 10% last year, which we were quite happy about. Because we spring calve, we don't have such a high demand on our cows during the autumn. It's mainly just a maintenance feed we have for them. There's farm bots on the property to help monitor the level of the tank so we can tell real time on our phone if the tank needs checking. Having the farm bot helps cut down time to go and check tanks because you can just look at it on your phone and you know it's there, and if it's full, they'll send you alerts if it gets below certain levels. After attending the PGS Grass to Dollars program, I've learned about ewe requirements and paddock rotations and pasture management, and also about different infrastructures that we could implement into our farm. The biggest challenge we have as farmers is probably the seasonal conditions. The best way to respond to that is being prepared early and having the right steps in place. Being a younger generational farmer, that was the toughest year I've seen. I draw a lot of knowledge from my father and other people in the district that have been through tough times before. Coming into this year, I know that if it happens again, we're prepared, future-proof ourselves a little bit better, and I know that last year I was a bit daunted by it, but now I know you can do it, and we did it, and it's done, and we can just do it again.
My name's Todd Woodard. I'm a farmer here at Rattenbully where we run a grazing operation, cattle and sheep, and both self-replacing breeding operations. I run this with my family. We've been here for 27 years. Straight Angus cow herd, roughly about 1,300 cows. There's probably another 700 young cattle in the business at the moment as well. Purely a breeding business, which is we turn off weaners to local clients. The sheep flock are a composite sheep flock. They're white Suffolk based, but they have a multi-meat gene, which is a high fecund gene. That's a purely store lamb enterprise, but we do finish a few lambs through that system as well, given the right opportunities. This last 12 months or so is probably as dry as I can remember. Through that time though, we have developed predictive mechanisms in our business to understand in advance where we're going, and that's really relating to plotting a rainfall and equating it to grass on offer. So we have some software that helps us with that, and that data that collected through that over time becomes more meaningful and more accurate. So that's as a predictive tool, that's really important to our business. When we first came here, we were calving in autumn, so there was a great feed requirement for animals all the way through to joining in mid-June, which is probably our lowest energy time in our system. These days, we've switched everything to a winter calving and a winter lambing, which really works with our food on offer and our nutritional requirements of our animals. And I think just trying to work with nature is one of the main things that I want to get the point across to other producers, is try and work with your food that's available rather than battle against it. How do we prepare our feed budget throughout the year? We're always trying to match carrying capacity to stocking rate. The calculations are definitely through key dates. We're always calculating how much grass we've got in front of us to how many stock we're running. And how we do this is by quantifying it in the paddock with measurements, pasture measurements, but also backing it up with software, which also is predicting how much has been taken out of our system through grazing and then how much is still left in there. And we can then form a picture about whether we're tending to be overstocked or understocked. It works both ways. So, we might be understocked, there might be opportunities to trade some cattle through the system or take some cattle on longer, or we might be overstocked where we have to, really think about destocking and identifying animals in our system that we can flick out at short notice. We're in a paddock here that's got 125 days rest. We'll take this out to 180 days before we graze it. We'll have cattle behind tapes, making sure we get that high impact, high density grazing. So by collecting this data, the yield of this paddock here now, it's really backing up what our software package is telling us. We can use the 2 lots of information to really plan our grazing management and strategies through to our green date. What we'll do with this information now is we'll go back, put it into our graze chart, our forecast, and just reaffirm what our grazing chart's telling us. We can now have some accurate data to go with that and really fine tune our graze strategy through the autumn right up to and past our green date. Mid-March is a really critical time of the year for us. We're setting up for our key date. We think that's the middle to end of May when our green date starts. So it's really making sure that we've got enough feed on offer for the animals we want to carry through to that period. And that might mean selling some, it might mean keeping some more, it might mean buying a small amount of fodder in, which is our least preferable option. But we will buy in some hay just to feed a little bit, but really trying to match carrying capacity to the stocking rate. Our pasture management is really based around permanent perennial grasslands. So perennials really enjoy a short intense graze and then a long rest. And perennials are so important to us because of their roots, because of their durability, if they're managed properly, and their robustness. So our whole system is designed to be a really robust system with minimal inputs. If we have perennials and ground cover, it allows us to take advantage of any out of season rain or rain at any time. So in season rain, out of season rain, we can still grow grass if you have those 2 things in your system. Our ground cover targets throughout the year are really to have 80% plus ground cover. This allows us, any rain that does fall, it captures that rain, stops it evaporating quick enough, it stops it running and eroding the country. It keeps our soils cooler. It helps our biology last longer through these warmer times or variation in climate. So it keeps that temperature at more of a constant level. "2025, I think I think just to get through to our green date is our first goal. I think we're continuing to make the business, the grazing business, the whole business more robust, more resilient as we go forward to variabilities within climate and markets and all aspects of farming. So to really do that, to increase our knowledge and our carbon project footprint, we really want to delve more into the natural capital on farm and get a real handle on what that is. Yeah, that's our goals for this year.